Hey everyone, welcome to America. You're now living in the land of hamburgers, Starbucks, Hollywood, and most importantly, freedom. But this country wasn't always this glamorous. Today, we'll learn how America was born, why people get so worked up about taxes, and why we set off fireworks every July 4th. It'll be easy and fun. We're going to bust the myth that history is boring. Alright, you're now watching Season 1 of the epic saga of America's founding. Let's begin. In 1492, there was a guy named Christopher Columbus from Italy. The Queen of Spain gave him 3 ships to find a route to India. But he got lost and landed near the Bahamas. And he declared, "This is India." No buddy, it's not. But the Europeans were excited. A new world, lots of land, lots of gold, and the natives don't really understand us. Spain, France, the Netherlands, England, everyone started rushing over. This is the beginning of American history. Europeans, obsessed with land, discovered a new continent and started dividing it up, saying, "This land is mine, that land is yours." In 1607, the English finally established a settlement, Jamestown, in what's now Virginia. They named it after the king. Talk about loyalty. But they weren't prepared. Farming was tough, the water was polluted, and they didn't get along with the Native Americans. The first few years were a survival game like, who's going to starve first? So how did they survive? The answer is tobacco. They thought, this would sell like crazy in Europe. So they started growing tobacco, and that became the seed of the American economy. But behind that success was the suffering of Native Americans who lost their homes and Africans brought over as slaves. It's also the beginning of America's dark history. In 1620, another group of English people arrived on the Mayflower. They were the Puritans, who said, "We're leaving to find religious freedom." Ironically, while they demanded religious freedom for themselves, they kicked out anyone who believed differently and even burned people at the stake, accusing them of being witches. That's the famous Salem witch trials. They showed how they only cared about freedom for their own religion. That's human nature, I guess. Still, they created laws and communities, building the foundation of American democracy. By the mid-1700s, there were 13 colonies, and they were becoming very prosperous. Then the King of England thought, ooh, I could get some money from them. He needed to pay for wars, you see. In 1773, the people of Boston got angry. A tax on tea? Fine, we'll dump the tea. They snuck onto British ships and threw crates of tea into the harbour. It was more like the Boston Tea Terror than a party. Finally, on July 4th, 1776, America declared independence. The Declaration of Independence, mostly written by Thomas Jefferson, is a brilliant document. All men are created equal. Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Very inspiring. But Jefferson, the guy who wrote those beautiful words, owned 600 slaves. A little hypocritical, right? The Revolutionary War lasted 7 years, and with help from France, America finally won independence in 1783. Why did France help? Probably something like, we don't like England, so let's help America. After independence, a new problem came up. Now we have to run our own country, but how? So they got together and started writing a constitution. In 1787, the US Constitution was born. Power must be divided. Power is separated into 3 branches, legislative, judicial, and executive. The President, Congress, and the Supreme Court are born. And the very important Bill of Rights was also created. First Amendment, freedom of speech, religion, the press, and assembly. America's first president was, of course, George Washington. He was the hero of the Revolutionary War and super popular. People even asked him to be king. But Washington said no, I won't be king. I'll only serve 2 terms and then retire. This became a tradition, and even today US presidents can only serve 2 terms, and Washington left another famous saying, don't fight between political parties. But now, they fight all the time. Hearing all this, you might think, wow, America is such a great country. But it had a lot of problems. Slavery lasted for over 100 years. Women couldn't vote, and Native Americans kept losing their land. America didn't start out perfect. But the important thing is that even though it wasn't perfect, it kept trying to change. And at the center of that change were always immigrants. America today is a nation built on the blood and sweat of Puritans, tobacco farmers, revolutionaries who fought for freedom, and countless immigrants. And now, you are a part of that history. As a new member of this country, you can speak freely, believe freely, and choose your own life. That's what America has fought to protect for hundreds of years, and it's the future we still dream of, even though we're not perfect. Thank you. Your American story begins now.